Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome to the first edition of It Takes Two with my co-host, Sister Ruby.
Assalamu alaikum.
And this week we have with us Sheikh Ahmed Hanif. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to both of you.
Alhamdulillah. Yes, so this is the program where we look into the issues that come up in marriages, that come up in issues related to romance, and we'll be exploring it from a psychological and an Islamic philosophical point of view. And people have sent in their letters, and we appreciate and look at them with deep sensitivity, and appreciate if you continue to send your letters in with your queries. This week, we would like to kick off the episode with a scenario about attraction between spouses. And if I may just read this letter, we'll see what you both make of it, but particularly yourself, Sheikh. So it says, "Dear Take Two, my husband smells. When he hugs our children, I can smell his body odor on them. We've been married for 6 years and we have 2 very young children. I bought him aftershave and perfumes to encourage him to take more care of his hygiene, but I don't know what else to do. I don't want to hurt his feelings, and if I'm honest, I don't think I love him anymore." Anonymous.
It seems to me that she is hinting to him rather than speaking directly to him about this. Okay? So, here you have a situation where there's something about your spouse that disturbs you, but you're not expressing it. You're not saying anything. You're too worried about hurting their feelings, and now you've reached a point where you don't love them anymore. Okay? And my feeling about this is that she doesn't love him anymore because she cannot stand his body odor. Okay? Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good lesson for us, right? You know, that we have to be a little more direct. We don't have to be blunt necessarily, but you have to be more direct. You know, just buying him deodorant and so forth might not encourage him to use it. Because look, even though Muslims in the past, gave emphasis on perfume and so forth, you heard in history, they said the Muslims, they can smell the Frankish armies in the Crusades, mm-hmm. which was the European armies, from a mile away because of their body odor. Okay? Muslims didn't have that problem. Today the tables are turned. You have whole Muslim societies, and I've been in them, where perfume, is not as important, okay? Or using cologne or arm deodorant, is unheard of almost. Only the upper classes do it. You see? And so you find people who do not have this particular habit, of personal grooming, especially on the part of men. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay? Again, what's here is a very good case in point where women are very, very important, very, very concerned about their own personal grooming, but the men don't. You know what I mean? Some of them look like gorillas, you know what I mean, in terms of how they deal with body hair and so forth and so on, and I think here's a case in point where this woman needs to be more direct in terms of training her husband to be a human being.
But I'm thinking, is this, sister, is this a deal breaker? I mean, hygiene, yes, it's important, but it sounds like she doesn't love her husband because he smells. She's fallen out of love with him.
Well, women are like men. There's 3 things we look at. We look at physical, emotional, and sensory as well, which includes your smell. There's a scientific fact that with smell there's pheromones as well. If you go into certain environments, they produce more pheromones. And you think about it, you're in a crowded train, and your head automatically turns to the person who's wearing perfume that attracts your smell, or an aftershave. It's a natural phenomenon, and if one of those things in a woman's eyes is missing, you've got problems. What I would say to sisters...
Irreconcilable problems or?
Well, was going to say is I think women have a great capacity to be deal breakers, diplomats, and manipulate situations that can often benefit their own scenarios. So what I would advise the sister is that she can have a lot of control in this situation in terms of, we don't know from the letter, does the brother work in a certain type of environment? He might be a mortician. He's using chemicals that are very strong, that absorb in his skin and on his clothes. Might be a surgeon, a dentist. When he comes home, those chemicals are absorbed in his skin. She can go on the internet. There's deodorants that you can buy online that are prescribed by pharmacists, etc. She could do little subtle things in the bathroom. Change the soap. Use one that would suit him in the shower. You don't have to be so confrontive about it. Maybe she's tried subtly and then he's just not, he's coming in with scrubs, for example. And instead of going straight to the shower, he wants to sit down and have a drink and turn on the TV. So what I'm saying to the sister is, you know, do your homework. Maybe she has already, but you could really manipulate the situation to benefit everybody. As we said, he might have a hormonal issue. He might come from a culture, for example, where they use a lot of spices that is absorbed in, you know,
Indeed.
in their skin. So is it a deal breaker? It is if he's got some medical issue and the body is smelling a certain way, then she has that right. But there's avenues that
I have two
she
children.
can approach.
I thought I'd throw that in there. I mean,
They have two. I think what she's saying, it's sometimes with sisters, we get frustrated very quickly, so we use language that often sounds like it's a deal breaker, it's a be all and end all. But maybe when she hugs her children, she smells her husband, she doesn't want to smell that. So my suggestion would be, go online, there's remedies there. Surely the marriage is, I would hope, means more to you than somebody's smell, but it might be a problem, and if it is, she needs to seek medical attention. Go online, Google subtle changes, change the diet, cook different things, use different detergents, different deodorants. You don't even have to tell him. Put them in the bathroom.
It's the same manipulate, but I want to ask you something, Shay. I mean, marriage is half of the religion. Is this with all due respect, is this too superficial a reason to want to end the marriage? I'm not suggesting the sister's saying that she wants to end the marriage, but I don't
think it's superficial. Of course, it is not a problem as deep and profound as other problems, right? But there are things that actually turn people off. Bad breath, for example. You know, stuck with a husband who's got bad breath. Okay, it turns you off seriously. You know, body odor is something that also turns people off. Absolutely.
But is it something that can be addressed as opposed to saying, is it something that would be best addressed, or something that's worthy of saying, okay, I want to exit strategy. This person doesn't.
No, it has to be addressed, because it's superficial in that aspect, in the sense that they are problems that can be quite easily solved. Okay, they can be solved by, for example, physical interventions or even medical interventions. All right, somebody has for example, bad breath. You know, you go to a doctor, you can get recommendations as to what to do. There's
treatments.
In your stomach, how you eat and how you eliminate and so forth. You know what I mean? Bad breath. There's so many. Bad body odor. There's so many things on the market above counter, as the sister was saying, even like from a doctor. You know what I mean? So there are things that can be quite easily solved. The problem is that things like bad breath and body odor and so forth. Okay, people tend to be very, very sensitive about how you tell that to somebody. You see?
Yes.
And this is the problem. You don't say it. What she's doing, she's hinting to this person, okay, which is not enough. All right? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You know, you could I think that one of the best ways is like the sandwich way, the sandwich method of criticism, okay? Two positives interspersed by the criticism itself. You know, you're a great person on all levels. I love you for this, okay? You know, if you deal with that body odor, right, you'll be the best. You'll be the most ideal. You have two great suggestions, okay, with the intermediate criticism, where you encourage them, and if you solve this, okay, the reward or the consequence is going to be much higher.
But
much
a lot
better.
of the time when you're dealing with men, again we generalize, is that when you make a suggestion, they hear it and then back to the same routine the next day. So what I'm feeling is that she's feeling frustrated. I'm thinking she may have used, you know, several methods that haven't worked and she's sick of it. Maybe for the man, he doesn't see there's a problem.
She sounds like she's hinting. This is, sounds like she's only hinting. She's
Let's stick with the text. Let's stick with the text of what we have, right? I mean, what she says is, I bought him stuff. She didn't say I've spoken to him about this.
She's alluding to. She's alluding to it, but not being.
Well, maybe she feels a bit intimidated by the brother and what his reaction will be to say, you have a smell. Maybe she's saying, I've tried to make changes. You're not taking the bait. I've had enough because this is.
But she needs to talk to him about that. My impression is she hasn't spoken to him about this.
Because at some point you're going to have to speak about it, even if it's to say, I want to divorce you. Well, why? Because you smell. So I mean,
would brothers do that though? Would they be so frank and to just come and say,
excuse me?
Everybody
Everybody has this problem, okay? About telling somebody, okay, that they should use deodorant. Okay?
It is a touchy subject.
It's a touchy subject, okay? Somebody comes up to you and talks in your face and you recoil in horror.
Yeah,
because
instinctively.
of their bad breath. But you don't know how to tell them because it's so sensitive. And this becomes really problematic in a relationship. Because, I don't have to live with this person who has a bad breath, for example, or body odor. You know what I mean? I just don't want to tell them. But if you're living with this person, it becomes difficult. It's a good topic.
So isn't that a bigger duty? So you live with a person, isn't that a bigger duty?
Yes, I think you need to tell them.
Yes.
They need to be told, okay, in an upfront, direct, but very respectable way, in an encouraging way. Look, honey, you got body odor, okay? You know something? I can't stand it, okay? So look, let's try these deodorants, please.
That's really going to work in a household. They'll be in separate rooms for the rest for 5 months.
I want to interject something to add to this scenario. I mean, when I read the scenario, straight away as a psychotherapist, the lights went on. I don't think I love him anymore. I'm only wondering, because that's what we do as psychotherapy, we wonder and we ponder. Is there something deeper going on? Because it's not, I'm madly in love with my husband, but it's a big problem. He really, has a real body odor issue, as opposed to, I don't think I love him. And
maybe it's, as you said, other underlying issues. Maybe in the marriage she's discussed things or introduced things and he hasn't taken attention of it. So now she's gotten to a state of frustration. Maybe, the smell is a cherry on the cake. She can't take it.
I don't think we need to go there. I don't think we need to go there. I don't think you need to wonder anything, right? Because
wondering is good.
What I'm saying is, if we wonder and speculate, there's a million things you can speculate and wonder about. Okay, let's take it face value, because I think there's much to learn about face value. There's a person who has a spouse, okay, that smells horrible. Okay, they hate the smell. They don't. What we're getting from the text, okay, is they have not directly approach that person with this, but with hints, all right, and it's not working.
But Shay, love is a deep thing, and I can't believe.
And so smells.
And love is personal hygiene is important, but I'm not being judgmental, genuinely not being judgmental. But I'm thinking, when somebody loves somebody, and they have a problem, it's they love them and there's his problem. But when you don't love somebody, then the problem is more of an issue.
You can hate somebody because they smell bad. You could dislike somebody because they smell bad. Yes, you can.
And everybody,
so?
I think.
Yes, the person can have the greatest personality and everything, right? But they smell bad.
And also, I think everybody has their triggers. Maybe for this sister, the smell reminds her of something. So negative. So she wants to eliminate that memory or whatever. But I'm sensing that she feels frustrated with the issue, and maybe she hasn't thought of other alternatives, which we have approach, medical reasons. I know from personal experience, I had a friend who had a medical condition, and she did warn me that, when she entered my house, she would smell not very nice. And like, oh, okay. And really, when she did enter, it was something else. It literally saturated the walls for days. And that was a friend that I'd had to see once in how many months. And I'm smiling because it's a bit humorous, but it was distressing. So imagine every day with that person. But there are avenues. I wouldn't call things quit just based on that. Try all avenues. Again, with marriage, we must try everything we can for the sake of the children.
Indeed.
And herself. It's two. And, I would like to stress that, being single isn't all that it's cracked up to be in divorce. If it's something you can work on and it's a smell, thank God it's a smell. It's not something huge like domestic violence, thank God, or something.
But I think we have to remember the olfactory component, of attraction. Right? Is extremely important, and we should not, diminish that importance. It might be superficial. It might be something that is simple to deal with. But it's profoundly important. This is why we have, for example, a massive perfume industry, for example. And if a person is unpleasant from the point of view of smell, it could overwhelm everything about that person.
So we've looked at it from the point of view, explored it from the sister who has been, courageous enough to make this a request in terms of a problem. What about from the point of a husband who is there an Islamic duty to be clean? What's going on? Is it to do with wajib or preferred hadith, or what's the context?
Hadith where the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has emphasized upon spouses looking pleasing and being pleasing for each other. You're doing it for your spouse. You're doing it for your spouse to be pleasing to them. It mightn't be your thing. You mightn't like to wear perfume. You mightn't prefer wearing perfume. And as long as you're not allergic to perfume or something, your spouse wants perfume, you put it on. Because it's what love is, really, right? Love is making the other person everything. You know what I mean? What that person likes, you like. What is love if you say, they say, I like this of you, and you say, I don't care, this is not me. It's not really love. What that person likes for you and from you, you do it, you emphasize it because you feed off of that love. You see? And, I think this is why our society really needs a lot of marital counseling and guidance and so forth in terms of dealing with each other. Because I think a healthy, self-confident male or female, right, should be able to appreciate it when their spouse, who they are intimate with, who they know, all of their faults or whatever. When a spouse tells you, look, honey, you got to do something about that breath of yours, for example. And it's coming from a good place. They're saying something that this is about you that bothers them, and they're suggesting to you how to deal with it. All right? Or look, honey, you have a body odor problem. You see?
That sounds easier said than done. I'm just taking myself out the situation. If someone said that to me, I would probably say, well, you have some nerve, quite frankly.
Isn't it more about how it's said?
You know what?
People who are close say all sorts of stuff to each other. But
honestly, I would prefer my friend to tell me that than my spouse.
So your spouse has to tell your friend then?
Well, I don't think that's a bad idea. If this sister has, he has male relatives, then maybe it sounds better if it comes from, a friend, a male thing.
That's a strategy.
It's a possible strategy.
Yeah, that's a strategy. But they have to find a strategy where that person knows directly.
So don't hint to her father-in-law. If she's going to tell her father-in-law, tell him.
About it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Don't mention me, for example.
Because she could be saying...
You see what I'm saying, right? But you find a strategy for this person to know directly the importance of taking action on this.
because as I said, sometimes it's better coming from outside. You don't get the red flags. Like, what do you mean? Here, I've been working 12 hours a day. I come in and you're talking about smell, and you're looking like, you've been in a war. What's going on? And then other things come up. So get someone, preferably the same gender, who could be a friend and be like, bring up a situation, or the third person, I think.
Do you think the sister has a duty to tell her husband, or to make it known to him, in a sense, even if it's through a chain?
I do, because if you truly care about somebody, you will tell them good and bad things, but it's the way you do it, and that's with every relationship. It's the way you do it, it's who says it, and what are the ramifications. I think, if you care about someone, I would feel offended if my spouse said that to me. I'd rather my friend or a sister or someone to be like, rather than to know that he's at home. And how long have you been thinking this, by the way, and you didn't tell me? Who else knows? That would be a problem for me.
I think I agreed completely with what you're saying, but I think to add a little modification, you said maybe his own gender, from, like, for example, intimating his family, like an uncle or something. Tell him. I would venture to suggest that either gender would be important in telling him, and sometimes even from the female gender, like an aunt, for example, telling him, about how he smells and how important to a woman it would be, for example.
Could be powerful.
Okay.
That could be
quite
powerful.
powerful.
Yeah,
it could be quite powerful.
Yeah.
And again, we don't want to demasculate the poor brother. You go to his best friend and he'll be like, why is my wife talking to my best friend about how I smell?
Well, that's why I mentioned, when you mention to let's say a best friend or to a family member of his or whatever, you tell them, I didn't say that. Don't mention me in this. You know what I'm saying? Make it, it's indirect from you, but it's direct from them.
Because the other method could work out toxic.
And what I want to say to the brothers is, please, come on. Just as brothers give sisters a hard time, and when they get married, they let themselves go, can brothers be mindful too? I mean, we would like to marry the Prince Charming that we, were with 10 years ago, or whoever, still be with them. Where are they gone? Why have they let standards drop?
Is this an issue from your interactions in the community? Is this something
Yes,
common,
it is.
or similar type things that are common in terms of brothers letting themselves go?
I think these are universal issues that happen between male and females. But as I said, I feel that there's a lot of pressure on women to be perfect at all times. So brothers want the 20-year-old that they married 10 years ago. Women also want that 20-year-old they married 10 years ago. We don't want... It's fine that you've gained a few pounds, but, if you're looking like a Buddha and you're expecting me to look like Barbie, it's not fair. And
Isn't there pressure on men now, though?
Realistic.
I don't know about in Muslim societies, but Muslims living in the West will be influenced by the West. And then the West is changing from men starting to use moisturizers and expected to look
I think for a lot of men, once the ring's on the finger...
A-list actors.
Once the ring is on the finger and he's bringing in the halal turkey bacon, his job is done. And it's like, okay, well, entertain me. It's like, well, you entertain me. So unless he was that type of person who took care of his appearance and is around like-minded people, for example, if your spouse is sporty, he's quite likely to have friends who are sporty, so he'll be in shape. But if you've got a spouse who doesn't want to do sports, wants to eat biryani with his friends every week, he's going to look a bit different than he did before. So
True.
We have the same issues, but some things are more important to us than others.
Sheikh, is there a flip side to this then? Let's look at this side from the perspective of some men in some cultures. It may be seen as almost effeminate to be, it may be a sign of masculinity to say, there's a bit of
to smell bad.
Rough and ready. I'm not saying minging, but like this sort of rough and ready thing, and this kind of new, what do they call it? This metrosexual. It's a bit metrosexually to be, always in the mirror and smelling even more sweeter than your wife and stuff like that. So some men may have a bit of an issue with that. How would you talk to that?
I think we have to go back to the teaching of the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wa alihi. Okay, who emphasized, cleanliness, who emphasized the use of perfume, who emphasized the fact that in appearance and in our akhlaq, we should be presentable to our spouses. You know, these are things that are, you know, rooted in Islamic etiquette and Islamic akhlaq. You know, we find that in today's society, they create this mythology of the non-gay man being a ruffian, being a person who doesn't have sophisticated culture, somebody who doesn't dress impeccably, somebody who does not take care of their bodies, somebody who does not take care of themselves. And then when they find a heterosexual man who does not fit that particular stereotype, they create a special, ambiguous identity for them. They call it a metrosexual. Why the word sexual? Why does that come into play? You know, when we're speaking about only appearance and how you take care of yourself. What's so sexual about that? It is merely a way to undermine heterosexual confidence in themselves.
Interesting.
You see?
Interesting.
So when a man starts to think of himself as putting himself together properly and appealingly, you know, and to groom himself and so on, you know, what they are actually hinting is that this is gay behavior and this is unusual for heterosexuals. So as a heterosexual man, you should be a bum.
Interesting point. This is really fascinating, and we hopefully we can carry this on the other side of the break. Hope to see you on the other side of the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu.